We're going to introduce the candidates who are here, or at least can each of you introduce yourselves and say hello? Candidates from the at-large.
Well, aloha mai kako e maho aloha. This is Kelii Akina. I am your trustee at large in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I'm so honored to serve you, and I want to say aloha to all of you members of the Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club and Auntie Mahealani Cipher. Mahalo.
Mahalo for coming. Okay, who else we have at large?
Aloha.
I don't have the list with me. There you are.
Aloha. Thank you, Auntie Mahealani and the Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club for hosting us this evening. I'm your candidate for trustee at large. Look forward to serving everyone as OHA trustee at large. Mahalo.
Good to see you. Aloha. Do we have our candidates from, Luana? Is Luana here?
Yes, aloha.
There you are. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. She's running for the seat representing Molokai and Lānaʻi, correct?
Yes, correct. Thank you. Mahalo. Thank you so much for having me here. I am just thrilled to be a part of your forum and look forward to sharing my manaʻo with everyone. And I hope that by the end that you folks will have a well-informed decision to make come November 3rd. Mahalo.
Maikai. Okay, and our candidates representing or seeking the seat for the Big Island, Hawaii Island. Could either of you speak up?
Okay, aloha. Aloha mai kako. Keola, Lindsey. Mahalo nui to the Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club for having this forum tonight. It was very impressive watching you folks work through your agenda and all the different issues that you folks are involved with. So very impressive. And again, mahalo for having me and the rest of the candidates here tonight. Aloha.
Aloha. Okay, we're going to start. We're grateful that you came early.
One more, Auntie. We have one more candidate.
Oh, Lanakila, sorry. You're the first one here. Okay, Lanakila, where are you? I don't see you. Oh, okay. There you are. Okay, mahalo. Lanakila, want to say?
My name is Lanakila Mangauil from Hamakua, Hawaii Moku. It's an honor to be here to be able to share with you all this evening, and mahalo again for having me.
Oh, great to see all of you. You guys look so exciting and excited, and we're all excited because everybody's starting to vote this week, and we all want to make sure we bring the best of the best into our circle of decision makers, and we hope that all of you are winners and that all of you will stay involved and help with moving OHA and a Hawaiian community forward. So mahalo to all of you for putting yourselves forward to serve the people. Okay, our forum is going to be about 45 minutes long. We have 3 questions we're asking each of you. We sent you the questions so that you would have a chance to think about it and maybe prepare some answers. And then we're going to give you a little time at the end of the question period so that you could do some closing remarks of your own, whatever you want to talk about. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Hawaii Island candidates. That's Lanakila and Keola, right? No, yeah, Keola Lindsey. So we're going to start with Keola. I'm going to ask you first, and then I'll ask Lanakila, and then we're going to move to the next island, which is Molokai, and then we're going to do the at large. Keola,
okay.
where?
And
Okay.
just a quick addition. I'll be keeping time, and I'll give you a little chat notice
1 minute
for the 1 minute warning, and then yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so do your best, and we'll be happy with whatever you share, I'm sure. Okay, so first question goes to Keola, and then the next time around, Lanakila will be the first one asked.
Okay.
First question is, would you support changing the OHA voting law to restrict voting for island candidates to the people of that island? Why or why not?
Mahalo. So I know this is an important question out there right now. I do support exploring that idea and getting a good analysis of the history of why everyone in the state votes for the island candidates. I think it's definitely important that islands have good representation from their trustees. So again, I support that kind of proposal being in a bill and being analyzed thoroughly and moving forward through the process. But in addition to the island trustees, I think part of the discussion has to be, if it's about making sure that islands have representation, what does that do for the overall composition of the board, in that we have 4 at-large trustees as well, right? So how would like an island trustees representation of their people be impacted by 4 at-large trustees as well? But again, overall, it's important that islands have their voice heard, and I do support the idea being put in a bill and moving forward through analysis. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, thank you very much. Lanakila, right now. Lanakila, are you there?
You know, I very much do echo that.
Same question.
I think it's something that definitely needs to be looked at. It has been definitely an issue for a number of years, especially for us on the outer islands. Just by sheer population, it is very difficult for the representatives put forward and voted that win the vote of the islands when the outer islands, especially Oahu, dominates by sheer population. So I know it's definitely been a rising concern. But I do echo the concern being then when you have the 4 at large, and how do you leverage that, as well as also for fair representation on things that affect us on pai aina wide decisions. I know it's also the question I think that needs to be relooked at too, when you have for equal representation, if you have perhaps 1 trustee for Maui and Lānaʻi that has so many Kanaka compared to 1 representative for Hawaii Island that has a larger population of Kanaka. How does that equate out? So it is a very complex question, I think, that we need to look at, but I definitely do think that is only the most important thing. We don't vote for each other's county representatives, so why would it be that for the trustees? So I definitely support looking into that and starting that conversation to hold on.
Oh, very good. Okay, we're going to ask the Molokai candidates. It's Luana and Colette Machado. Luana, can you start with that one?
Sure. You know, from what I understand, you know, the reason we have 1 trustee per island is because the island trustees represent the entire state, as do the at-large trustees. Now, if population were factored in and each island votes for their own island representative, Oahu would still have a larger say in the board of trustees, with fielding perhaps maybe more than 20 trustees given the population on Oahu. And naturally, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't have a fair share for the neighbor islands in the OHA decision making. However, at the same time, Oahu has the highest registered voters, which means Oahu voters contribute a bit more to electing the OHA trustees. I would definitely be in support of changing the OHA voting law, but as much as it would be ideal to have island trustees vote for their own island representatives, it probably wouldn't seem likely given the current situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody here from Colette Machado's office or campaign? If not, we're going to move on to the at-large candidates. Starting with Keoni. Could you answer the first question?
Yes, mahalo. Yes, I would support changing the voting law to restrict voting for island candidates to the people of that island. You know, what's interesting is that the trustees of each island are required to be residents of the island. However, the voters are not. You know, we need to listen to the people, and I've heard many express their concerns over the current voting laws. For example, each district votes for their own state reps and state senators, etc. Wouldn't it make sense that each island votes for their own OHA representative? Also, the people living within each island community would have firsthand knowledge of the real issues affecting their island, key issues that should be addressed by the candidates, and would therefore be better informed to vote. Another thing I want to mention is the extremely disproportionate voting populations that we see on Oahu versus the neighbor islands. Many times statewide races are decided by Oahu votes alone. For example, in the primary election, Kauai's trustee race garnered over 119,000 votes from Oahu voters and just under 14,000 votes from Kauai Island. So OHA Island trustees should not be voted on statewide. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, we're Kelii, Akina, you want to give it a shot for this first question?
Mahalo, and I want to congratulate you on asking such a sensitive and important question. It is very important for the beneficiaries from each island to be represented well on the OHA board. Therefore, I'd be open to any changes in the law that could improve the system, but it's a very complex question. It's important to look at what we're trying to accomplish in terms of representation on the board. You know, on the one hand, we definitely want to have beneficiaries in particular regions represented well. On the other hand, we want trustees who represent the entire state and who have the kind of support that makes them truly statewide trustees. So the question is, how do we pull off both of these values at the same time? Now, one way might be to follow the practice that is often used in legislatures and in Congress. In each of those bodies, we have two houses, the Senate and the Congress. One represents a geographic region and the other represents a population region. But in the meantime, all is not lost. Even before the law is changed, we presently can encourage voters to participate in the elections and ensure that the right kind of trustees that represent the island and the state are elected. Now, one island where that seems to be working out well is Maui. And I can mention the example of trustee Carmen Hulu Lindsey because she's not a candidate running for office in this election. In compliance with existing law, Hulu is a resident of her island. Additionally, she's well respected there and involved in civic, charitable, and government organizations. According to current law, she has campaigned statewide and has a strong reputation for service to the entire state of Hawaii and has also been a member of the governor's administration. As a result, she can carry authority when it comes to representing and voting on statewide issues. And at the same time, when she represents her own island, she brings greater clout. Now, whatever system of voting we use, and they are imperfect, in the end, the model of what Hulu does is a good one we want to follow. So I'm open to change, but until then, let's keep working on getting good trustees in who represent both their islands and the state. Mahalo.
Wow. So this was a good question that was really meant to start the conversation going again, just to get people thinking about how to make it fairer to the island representatives. So that's I think why our club decided to ask that question. We don't have any firm stand on it. The second question, we're going to start with the at-large candidates this time, and we're going to start with Kelii Akina. You get to answer the second question first, and that is, how can or would you help our community in our efforts to preserve cultural resources in Koʻolaupoko, such as in Haiku Valley and at Luluku, but there are many other cultural resources in our area?
Well, you know, when it comes to preserving cultural resources in Koʻolaupoko, such as in Haiku Valley and Luluku, we need to do a better job of listening to the community. I really believe that. Many feel that, and before I became a trustee, OHA had failed to advocate for the Hawaiians and instead has politically aligned with the Department of Transportation and with developers. And as a result, there's not a satisfactory mitigation plan in place to offset the negative impacts of H3 on cultural artifacts. That breaks my heart when I think about that. Now, in light of the ongoing building of H3, and it's still going on, I'd like to propose that OHA look into the following 4 measures. Number 1, more spending for the HLID to mitigate the impact of H3. Number 2, mitigate a broader area, including Halawa Valley, not just along the H3 corridor. 3, a cultural center to preserve cultural artifacts that have been displaced. 4, some funding from OHA through grants. Now, I realize that in the past, working with OHA on grants may have been a challenge for many organizations, but the process has improved significantly. I've been committed to seeing that happen, especially with reforms that have come through the transparency efforts that we've had in the last 4 years. So I would invite your organization to try again, and if you have any need of assistance, please contact me directly. OHA has shown a renewed commitment to preserving cultural artifacts in other projects on the island, such as the Kukani Loco birthstones in Wahiawa, and I believe that we should show the same commitment to Koʻolaupoko, Haiku Valley, and Luluku. And in closing, I want to congratulate your organization for being at the forefront of keeping this message alive, that we need to care for the Aina. We need to malama our Aina wherever we are. Mahalo for doing the good work you're doing. Aloha.
Mahalo for your answer. Now I'd like to go on to Keoni. You want to give a shot at this question?
Yes, please. Mahalo Mahealani. First off, I applaud the efforts of the various agencies, clubs, and community members working to restore and preserve our precious natural and cultural resources in Koʻolaupoko. I'm also glad that the state is utilizing the insight of Native Hawaiian communities when it comes to nurturing our natural and cultural resources in each respective area. We definitely need to focus on the aina and self-sustainability efforts following the COVID-19 pandemic and educate the community on pono management of our aina and natural resources. As trustee, I would support and advocate for projects such as the Halava Luluku Interpretive Development Program, the Kawa'ewae Heiau Cultural Preserve, the Envision Koʻolau Museum, also some ideas from the Civic Club and Koʻolau Foundation, native plant habitats, the burial grounds for unclaimed iwi, and more. At the end of the day, we need to ensure that our natural resources are responsibly and respectfully used, replenished, and preserved for future generations. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to our Molokai candidates, and the only one here right now is Luana.
Aloha. Thank you. Excuse me. OHA should be supporting the preservation of all areas and locations that have cultural resources in need of protection, whether they are in Koʻolaupoko or elsewhere. In the case of Koʻolaupoko, there has been an ongoing effort for years to address preservation issues that arose after OHA signed off to allow the State Department of Transportation to continue construction of the H3 freeway. You know, I'm happy to see that the civic clubs, especially with you, working with Hawaii Memorial Park, the landowner, to establish a protected cultural preserve at the site. And I also believe that this approach is, you know, could be a nice prototype model, if you will, because, you know, it would create a lasting mechanism for an important and sacred cultural resource involving not only the landowner, but also to incorporate the cultural practitioners and result in lasting arrangements for our future care and oversight of the entire area. Mahalo.
Maikai, mahalo for your answer. Now we go to the candidates from Hawaii Island, starting with Lanakila. Lanakila, the question is, how can or would you help our community in efforts to preserve cultural resources in Koʻolaupoko? Where's Lanakila? We lost him. Can you might be muted. You might need to unmute yourself.
Oh, forgive me.
There you are.
Yes, so really big aloha and mahalo. I've seen all the efforts that you guys are helping to lead up in the preservation and restoration of this, truly a wahi pana. You know, the Heiau Bed area, and looking back at the history, you know, it has seen so much turmoil, but yet not losing sight of the need to malama aina. You know, it just echoed. I was brought back to understanding that we had a very similar situation when it came to Mauna Kea, where at a point, OHA actually signed on to support the desecration of a wahi pana. And so the action we had to do to get the office to rescind. So now I think the same thing where the office needs to play a more of a interactive role in supporting what the community wants and sees fit. And the unique thing about the wahi pana of Koʻolaupoko and all these areas is this is very much Kanaka interaction. You know, you have different wahi like Mauna Kea, which is more the sacredness of the natural ecosystem and the preservation of the natural. This is now a place that was heavily occupied by our lahui that was worked, you know, that aina. So part of the restoration of this aina is allowing Kanaka to return to this aina. The effort as well of getting Hawaiian homes to help to support this effort, I think is only befitting that, you know, we don't only just try to reserve and preserve, but actually revitalize. And that's when truly the place will thrive, is when its community is able to work back in it again. So very much support that. This is essential at this time as well. It's not only about educating the community, it's about educating the state about the need to have these places active and Kanaka and the people of Hawaii being able to utilize these places in a pono way again, as our kupuna did for thousands of years. So definitely feel OHA needs to be at the forefront of assisting the community to get your wahi pana active again.
Wow. Keola, are you there? Keola, can you take a stab at this question? Thank you.
Sure. Mahalo. So I think as many of the members of the Koolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club know, you know, when you look at federal historic preservation and state historic preservation law, it lays out a process, right? And I often look at it as the process is the mundane, the community brings the profound, and there's got to be an evolution of that process to incorporate community when that knowledge grows, right? So 25 years ago when Halava Luluku started, we were at a point in time, and the burden has been shifted onto the community in that the process hasn't changed, right? It's still the same mundane process trying to be pushed down the community's throat, where the community has grown in knowledge and understanding of that very process and the place that you guys are from. So there's got to be a growing on the process side to incorporate that. And I think OHA's biggest role is going to be changing that process to allow for that evolution to happen and for community to have a meaningful say in your area, right? So again, the communities right now, Halava Luluku, all these areas, you're being told that there's no room for change. And I think that's wrong. There's got to be room for change. The agreement documents for Halava Luluku are 2 decades old. There's got to be change in that, and it has to change to benefit the community and what you folks know, and your expertise and your commitment to your place. So OHA is going to have a role in that, and I'm excited to see that happen in Koʻolaupoko and all around Hawaii. Mahalo.
Wow. Okay, thank you for your answers on that question. Definitely the system needs to be improved, and we always felt that OHA had an obligation to advocate for our people instead of advocating for government agencies, but they have that bad habit of doing that. If you brought up, somebody brought up Kawaiʻi, and Kawaiʻi was something that our club debated and argued over and decided on as a community, as a club, as a civic club, whether that was a good thing or not. So once we made our decision and had analyzed it, we stuck with it. And we believe it's the right decision because they are going to honor the wahikapu of that area and even more. And so this landowner has really done a good job of trying to respect and honor the Hawaiian people of Kaneohe. So we have one more question, and then we're going to go into your closing remarks. So this time we're going to start with our Molokai candidate, that's Luana Alapa. Luana, can you answer the question, what is your manaʻo regarding reparations for Native Hawaiians?
Oh, I definitely believe in the concept of reparations. I believe that when government actions result in injury to the people, restitution and reparations are owed. When the Congress passed the apology resolution, United States Public Law 103-150, the U.S. acknowledged the historic wrongs resulted not only in the overthrow, but the consequences that followed, including poverty, ill health, political disenfranchisement, and so forth. The U.S. owes reparations to Hawaiians for these past wrongs and should have honored their part. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, we go to, let me see, I guess Hawaii Island. We're going to start with Keola. Keola, what is your manaʻo regarding reparations? This was a more complicated question and we narrowed it down. So reparations for Native Hawaiians. So whatever manaʻo you have to share.
Mahalo. I definitely think this is an important question. It's an important issue. But my thought at this point is that before we get to the issue of reparations, there needs to be a focus on what's owed Native Hawaiians now already. Public land trust revenue. How can we talk about reparations for Hawaiians when justice and the law for Hawaiians hasn't been met already? I think that revenue coming in will help with a very simple formula. More money coming into Native Hawaiians means more money for Native Hawaiian programs to address our health issues, our criminal justice issues, the housing issues and education issues, to get our people overall culturally, mentally, spiritually, and physically healthy. And when we reach that point, we'll be in a much better position as a lahui to have those bigger discussions about reparations. But again, I support the concept and the idea, very important. But before we get there, let's talk about what Native Hawaiians are already owed today. Mahalo.
Okay, Lanakila, what is your manaʻo
Reparations.
regarding?
Yeah, when you look at the concept of reparations, it is the payment back for wrongdoings, which is already, we know the history of our lahui, of our nation, and rightfully so. We are. This is due, but as was also stated, in no way should reparations negate justice. There is still the big elephant in the room that we all know, and that is the illegal occupation of our nation. That is the reason for the apology bill. They acknowledge this crime against our nation. That very act that our lahui rose up to and called attention to in the 60s and the 70s is what actually pushed and gave birth to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, to fight for the rights of our people because we knew of the injustices to our lahui. And again, in this way, somewhat, some have referred to it as that, as somewhat of a form of reparations, of being granted this percentage of ceded lands revenue, and which they have not even been, they have never fully paid that 20% to our nation or to our people. So in that, definitely we have to continue to push for what is rightfully ours, that has been offered to us by our occupiers, but we have to continue our pursuit of justice, and in that's the ultimate reparation, is justice for the wrongdoing and not just being paid off, because in no way does just another lump sum mitigate the wrongdoing itself. I can only again reflect another great example. They can offer thousands and millions of dollars to Hawaiian programs and Hawaiians this and that, in exchange for being able to do something that desecrates land, but in no way does that money actually help to repair and fix that land. That's the actual problem. And so we have to, I support the concept of reparations, but I do also put a caution to that in some way it then becomes a payment that now, in a sense, for them would say has now settled the deal. Justice is in many ways even more important. Like our kupuna said, let us not only be entranced by the heaps of money they can throw away, but really let's look for that justice as well. Okay? Mahalo.
Just to clarify, by reparations, we did not limit it to money. So it's just so that you understand, our club looks at all the possible ways that reparations can occur. Okay, we're going to the Keola. Did I do Keola? Keola?
Yeah.
Your turn?
Pa.
Oh, your Pa, okay.
Yeah, Pa.
Us in that wonderful answer, the last one.
Yeah. I thought you was giving me another chance.
No, Pa. Okay, now we go to the last question. Did I ask? If I'm forgetting myself, because I can't remember, did I do at large?
It's at large now.
Is that large time now? Huh?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with Kelii. Kelii Akina, you have an answer on the manaʻo regarding reparations for Native Hawaiians.
Mahalo. There's no question about it. It's a matter of justice. We don't get anywhere near justice with money, but it's a starting point that will allow us to get housing and jobs and education and healthcare and an opportunity for our people. And with that said, Hawaiians deserve the full amount of their share of the public land trust. By Hawaii Constitution, OHA is entitled to 20% of the proceeds of the public land trust. Currently, they've been receiving $15 million annually, but the amount should really be closer to $30 to $36 million. So why hasn't OHA been effective in getting the legislature to comply? We've really got to look at that question. It's because OHA's reputation and credibility at the legislature are at an all-time low. OHA is currently being investigated by the State Attorney General. In 2018, the state auditor issued a scathing report on its finances, and currently the legislature is withholding the entire 2019 budget of $3 million until OHA gets audited again and reveals what's going on with its LLCs. OHA has also failed to show that it will develop public land trust resources such as 30 acres of Koʻolaupoko Makai, losing potentially billions of dollars that could be helping Hawaiians. To restore OHA's credibility, trustees have to become true watchdogs over the trust fund. And if reelected, I will continue to pursue a three-part plan to achieve this. First, to protect the trust through regular audits and fiscal policy. Secondly, to grow the trust by fully developing Koʻolaupoko Makai and other properties. And third, to use trust property so that Hawaiians really do have the housing and the jobs and the education and healthcare. I'm committed to restoring OHA's credibility so that it has clout at the legislature and so that the state can't turn it down any longer. That's got to be a high priority in the next administration of OHA, and I would humbly respect and appreciate your support. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Okay, now we've come to the time where we give each of you, oh wait, Keoni. Keoni, sorry. Sorry, I'm kind of out of it today. It's been a long day, sorry.
No problem.
I'd love to hear your manaʻo regarding Hawaiian reparations.
You know what? I heard a lot of great responses from the other candidates, and I'm going to keep this really, really short for you all this evening. You know, first of all, I like what Keola said, how we got to follow through, basically, in so many words, on our existing reparations. We have not completed. So first of all, we need to be getting the full 20% of ceded lands revenues. There's no excuse. You know, the current trustees, you know, OHA has a lot of great qualities, but the current trustees, I mean, every 4-year term goes by and there's, oh, we need to be doing this, we need to be doing that. Tired of excuses already, we need to move forward. Whether it's COVID-19 or ceded lands revenues or Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, OHA needs to do all they can for Native Hawaiians. We're not gonna get any more reparations if we don't fight for it. And that's why I wanna be OHA trustee at large, to be at the forefront of the fight for more reparations for Native Hawaiians. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Now, thank you all for answering these 3 questions. We had a bunch of questions, and this is basically what our board came up with. So I hope that they weren't too, I don't know, challenging for you. Now we give you each 2 minutes to give your closing remarks. And let me see, who should we start with? I think we're going to start with Luana.
Okay. Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to share that, you know, I'm a single Native Hawaiian mother of 4, a University of Hawaii graduate with a degree in psychology. I'm the daughter of Kawana Kanahele of Lānaʻi Oahu and the late Stanley Alapa of Hoʻolihua, Molokai. I currently reside in Hoʻolihua, Molokai on 5 acres of my late father's agricultural homestead lot, where my goal is to help develop his master blueprints that he designed 25 years ago. And I'd like to develop it into a vibrant, self-sustaining, income-producing agricultural lot. This is a place where I plan to live the second half of my life to see my father's blueprints come to reality. I'm also blessed, if I'm blessed to be elected as fiduciary of the trust, my mission will be to work tirelessly to grow the trust and to expand the scope with which it serves our beneficiaries. I have several goals as trustee, and one of them is to see our houseless, homeless Native Hawaiians living on their ancestral land with a roof over their heads. Native Hawaiians are ranked at the bottom for the lowest home ownership among all other groups in our state. This has to change, and I will see to it that we remedy this dire situation immediately. Agriculture. DHHL and OHA must work to ensure Hawaiians living on agricultural lands are able to purchase, grow, and harvest food to feed their families and even their community. The COVID lockdown is a perfect example of why our community should have and integrate agricultural and pastoral practices so that we become self-sufficient rather than dependent on outside food sources. And finally, I believe greater care of OHA's assets and transparency of funds must be addressed. I'd like to bring to the board a new positive energy filled with hope and honesty and help restore trust, leadership, accountability, and to develop critical programs to help improve the conditions of our Hawaiian people. The goal of raising and sustaining the highest quality of life of our Hawaiian people will be my ultimate mission as your OHA Molokai Island trustee. I'm Luana Alapa candidate, and I humbly ask for your support. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Okay, we're going to the at-large candidates, starting with Keoni Souza. This is your 2 minutes.
Mahalo again to Mahialani and the Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club. You know, local roots, local values describe me best, as I was born and raised on the island of Oahu and have been immersed in personifying Hawaiian values my entire life. I graduated from the Kamehameha schools, Imua. Being educated at a Hawaiian institution taught me that we must do our part to perpetuate our culture and become thought leaders in the community. My diverse background as a flight attendant, musician, stevedore, and realtor has allowed me to serve the public, travel the world, and understand the needs of the people of Hawaii. As a husband and father of 3 to Bentley, Royce, and Presley, I understand the value of ohana and helping Hawaiians thrive. As a child growing up in Hawaii, my grandmother Mona Ka'apana Medeiros from Molokai instilled in me the necessity of leadership and doing the right thing. Grandmamona's father, the late Reverend Isaac Iaya of Koʻolaupoko Church on Molokai, also led by example through political activism and service to the Molokai community. It is my kuleana to restore the faith back to OHA through leadership and serving our Hawaiian communities. It is my deepest hope that we can change the look and feel of OHA while allowing new blood to take the helm. We must strive for a new direction with creative ideas to recreate and rebrand OHA. No Hawaiian left behind is the mantra that should direct the efforts of OHA going forward. I'm ready to be the voice for our people. Vote Souza. Mahalo.
Oh, thank you. Kelii Akina.
Aloha, I'm Kelii Akina. It's time to say aloha oi, but first let me say mahalo nui to the members of the Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club, to all the viewers, and best wishes to my fellow candidates. It's such an honor to be your trustee at large in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I'm also a husband and father of 4 children, all of whom, like myself, are graduates of the Kamehameha schools. I'm a Lupanui. My mother's side comes from Puna District and the Big Island. My father is an Akina from Kelii and local areas on Oahu. When I was first elected a trustee, I fulfilled my campaign promise to fight against fraud, waste, and abuse. I championed an independent audit, and when the state auditor found that many trustees had abused their trustee allowances, I refused to use mine, and I returned $44,000 to the beneficiaries of OHA. I'm committed to making sure that all Hawaiians get housing and jobs and education and healthcare. And that's why I'm your watchdog in OHA on behalf of the beneficiaries to see that this happens. If reelected, I will pursue my 3-part plan to develop OHA trust funds and lands. First, protect the trust through audits and fiscal policy. Secondly, grow the OHA trust by sustainable and pono development of commercial lands, such as kaka'ako. Third, use the OHA Trust to ensure that all Hawaiians get the housing and the jobs and the healthcare and education that they need. I've come up with a saying, we all say e pule kako, and we do that, but we also need to e hana kako. Let's work together to build a better Hawaii for all Hawaiians. And let's make it so that all Hawaiians thrive, so that everyone in these islands thrive. Much aloha. I want to thank you. I'm Kelii Akina. I'm honored to be your trustee at large, and I would be honored to continue doing that role on your behalf. Aloha.
Wow. Okay, we'd like to invite Lanakila to offer his manaʻo.
Again, I want to mahalo you all for hosting us this evening, and to my fellow candidates. Let's move forward to help our lahui, no matter how this plays out. But you know, I come from humble beginnings here. Actually, raised up Mauka of Honoka'a town in the forest of Ahualoa. I am the son of Stephen Mangauil from Kailua Kona and Maureen Louise McGraw of Colorado. But being raised by a single parent, I know the strengths and the struggles of our community. My mother had to work very hard to raise us, but gifted the opportunities for us to learn from our communities. Me and my siblings were blessed to be sent to Waipio a lot of times in our growing up, and we got to learn from some wonderful kumu and be part of amazing movements that actually I reflect back to Kukuluku Mohana, which was an amazing summer program. And these summer programs bloomed into the very first Hawaiian Academy, which then bloomed and became the Native Hawaiian Public Charter Schools. I'm a proud product of the Hawaiian Charter Schools, and the first ever Hawaiian Charter School graduate to run for an elected office. And I'm blessed to be able to move forward in feeling secure in the foundation of my kupuna, and still being able to access the wisdom and the knowledge of the world. And it's this fundamental time that we are in right now, where we are really looking at the necessity to change the status quo, to see the systems that have not worked. COVID-19 has really exposed all of these things that our community has been trying to point out for generations now, of how things were not working, how it's important that we malama our aina, that we truly look towards sustainability. And we descend as Kanaka Maoli from a people that thrived on these islands for thousands of years. And it's from that foundational knowing and understanding that we should be moving forward. When we look to how we want to help to better our communities, how to protect our ohana and our aina, we don't have to look too far. We really just need to look back within our own ancestral as you are all fighting to protect the iwi kupuna and the walls of the sacred heiau and the platforms where the food sustained the communities, right there is the access to that knowledge and the know-how. Moving forward, it's imperative that we have foresight and we have innovative thinking. I myself, I helped to actually champion and actually create the Aina Aloha Economic Futures Initiative, which I encourage you all to go and look. And that was a direct initiative to bring to the forefront the foundations of who we are as a people, pili to these lands, to help to paint a better time forward, a better future for our lahui. And so I ask you all for your support now to represent my home and all the pa'iaina of Hawaii. And so please vote Lanakila for OHA. Mahalo nui, aloha.
Mahalo nui. Okay, we'd like to invite Keola, Lindsey, to share your manaʻo.
Mahalo. So, I'm very proud to be a product of Pu'ukapu Hawaiian Homestead in Waimea. My dad moved us out there right after he got his lease, and we lived in a Matson container with no electricity and no water. And the story that plays out across the world is when you don't got nothing and you don't got nothing to compare it to, you think you're the richest person in the world. So it was a good life. And for the first 20 years of it, we worked the land. We were farmers. So I know the values of hard work and honesty and treating others with respect. And, even though I've worked in government for, 20 years now, I'm still that kid, on the homestead, living in a Matson container, interacting with people, treating each other with respect, and just a person trying to make the world a little better before I leave it, right? And just a person trying to help other people and communities. And I'm excited for the opportunity. And all of us, we're trying to make, our people and our communities and our islands and the world a better place. And the sun's still going to come up on November 4th, no matter what happens. And we're all still going to be committed to this mission that we've all signed up for. So I wish my candidates all the best. I want to mahalo the Koʻolaupoko Hawaiian Civic Club for putting this together and giving us all the opportunity to share our thoughts and answer your questions. And I think this is just a really good example of how communities should be informed and knowledgeable about the votes that you cast. And yeah, you're gonna have your voice heard and exercise your rights and privileges to vote. So mahalo nui and aloha.
Mahalo.